and watch him pull them up.
And that's exactly what they're doing, Davis. They're just sitting behind Bauer, who's now going to start taking on food for the remaining half of this race, stocking up his water bottles there. And in fact, there's a counter-attack coming here, and it's coming from Jeff Pierce and Malcolm Elliott. They've seen Bauer taking a little bit of time out there, and they push the pace up.
Well, and you can see it. They're not really supporting McCook at all. But Jerzy Wozniak has slipped off in front of them, and he's trying to bridge that gap on his own. Another small team, Phil, the Chisholm Racing Team.
You know, that's the benefit of not having the big hitters, I think, from Motorola here now. As a lot of riders think they can win this race today. We haven't seen Wozniak on the attack throughout this series, and here he goes across the gap. And you're right, it's one of the small teams, and they deserve success too.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And you see the pack is actually kind of taking a bit of a time here to catch their breath.
Well, there's still a long way to go, and that breakaway is far from safe yet, but the bunch are taking it easy just now. We'll take a break as well. I'm Phil Liggett along with Davis Phinney, and this the final round in the Tour of America. The three riders who've thrown down the gauntlet today, and they're around about 40 miles now from the finish. Dave Mann was the man who attacked, excuse the pun. Brian Walton and David McCook caught him up, and it seems that Team Motorola today, who've dominated this series, really are outnumbered. Steve Bauer, their best placed overall, in third place in the series, is now having to chase them down, and here he is. He's been on the attack, he's countered the moves, but just now Davis Phinney does appear as though this breakaway is going.
Jerzy Wozniak from Team Chisholm has already caught up, and here is Skip Spangenberg. So two new names we really haven't talked about on this year's Tour of America. That makes two Team Chisholm in this group. The other three may not be so inclined to work so hard now.
And that's put 5 men in this group now, representing 4 teams in the race. An awful lot of riders back in that big pack are not going to chase down this breakaway. But as you say, Davis, they'll be worried about 2 riders on the same team up here.
And I tell you what, Phil, you could really see the effort on Brian Walton's face. And you see Dave Mann, he almost appears to be cruising. I think the trio that were out front so long are really getting tired.
Well, the new blood that's come up to the breakaway, the 2 Chisholm boys, and this is Jerzy Wozniak, who's trying to keep this breakaway away, because, you know, these guys don't get a lot of success in big-time cycling over here. They're not going to give up too easy. This looks like Trent Klasner.
Yeah.
I have a lot of time for this rider, Davis.
Trent Klasner is a very nice man. He's an excellent rider, but he has almost no support. He's riding as an independent. He has no team in this event, but he's making the effort today, and that's impressive. Maybe the exposure will help out for his sponsor.
Well, he's had a great Tour of America because he's not a member of the big teams. He's trying to bridge the gap across to these leaders, and that's going to be a tough job now. You get some feeling of the crowd here in Marquette Street as we go down towards the start and finish line, and still the Latvians, the amateur squad in this race, are being left to do the chasing.
That's right, and left is the key because they're not being aggressive. They're not on the front of the event. They're only always trying to catch up. So it is not a great race for them, but here we go with the attack. Looks like Brian Walton.
Yeah, Walton's gone off the front group. He sensed that group is tiring. Now he's a man for the long stay if he can keep clear, because he likes these lone attacks. He's a good time trial rider, and the Latvians are still trying to close down the rest of this race. And believe me, this is a superb Latvian team, but they really are being left to do all of the chasing, and that is a typical professional ploy to make the amateurs work hard and then outwit them tactically and strategically wise.
You got to think, Phil, that Brian Walton, though, is going to be too tired to pull this off. It's not like he's fresh. He has been off the front for quite a few miles up to this point, although we saw him at Core States come in on a strong solo ride trying to chase the winner, Sean Yates.
I remember, in fact, when he won the British Milk Race for the 7-11 team a few years ago. He's a really strong rider on his own. If anybody can do it, he can. He's got round about 5 laps to go. I suppose that's about 28 miles still to race. But this course is a very difficult course to stay away because there's no big mountainous challenges here in Minneapolis. It's a case of just keep the pace around about 30-35 miles an hour. And still it's the Latvians doing the work, and you see what's happened again. The professionals have launched an attack from deep down in the heart of the pack, and that's the way to do it.
That's right, and it's Team Chisholm again, so making a very good showing for the Chisholm Racing team today. Whether this man can close the gap on Brian Walton, I'm not sure if he has the strength, but it's a good show through the finish line.
Well, inspired by the great crowd down the home straight there, that's where the race will finish in about 25 miles time. But meanwhile, Brian Walton's out on the course and tackling the slight slope, and that's all you can call it around the back of the circuit. Meanwhile, our old friend from Latvia, and this is Iskovs, who's doing the chasing here, and he seems to be doing most of the work for the Latvians on the chase down.
But they were down to 2 riders. So Brian Walton has some time here, but because of the long straightaways on this course, the problem is the pack can see him, and then you have that prey out there. You just want to get him.
I get the feeling that Walton's felt committed to this. He really didn't want to go so early, but he sensed that breakaway was collapsing. They've been swept up now by the field, so in that aspect, David, he was right. But in fact, he's been forced to make the attack too soon.
Yeah, I would say so, and you can just see the effort written on Brian Walton's face to try to ride away from this field, and he's looking back. He is about to get caught.
Well, this has been a long breakaway by Brian Walton, and one has to say a brave one indeed. But he comes up to the last couple of laps of the race. The whole field is wrapped up, and you know, this is the first time for about 3 hours we've seen the field all together. And the led up to him by the Coors Light squad, that means Ron Kiefel is now back in the thick of the action. It's a good time for us to take a break. The Tour of America and the closing stages of the 121-mile event. And it looks, David, as though Coors Light has got the race under control here at the front.
Mike Engelman driving the pace right now. Looks like Chris Huber, last year's winner, going out front. So Coors Light has set the tone at the end of this race. Another Saturn rider following, but Huber has just an incredible burst of speed when this man wants to go fast.
Well, these guys are not going to believe the difference in this race this year in temperature, because it was cold and wet a year ago, and now the temperature's about 88 degrees.
See this group forming with Jamie Carney. First we've seen of him from Shackley, Chris Huber, Bart Bowen.
Well, Coors Light have got the tails up now. They've got the confidence of the victory a year ago with Chris Huber, and now they feel as they have control of this race as well.
You know what I think the problem, though, with this break is, Phil, is there's too many Chiefs here. Nobody really wants to work that hard. It might be too close to the end of the race to have this many good riders together, and the field looks strung out, so obviously they're going quite fast behind.
Well, I think too fast, Davis, because look at this. Nobody will come through and share the pacemaking here with Jamie Carney. Carney looks over both sides of his shoulder, but the whole pack's looking back. Now, we can't see them, but they're only about 10 seconds behind them, so they're closing in. This is Malcolm Elliott. He was the British title holder when he won the opening round in Atlanta, Georgia, but he's lost that title now in June.
And Malcolm is not going to go anywhere because he is the fastest finisher of this group. You've got 2 Saturn riders there, so they're going to make sure that he stays with them. But it is not a cohesive group. They're not really making a great effort here together. Scott Fortner shown from Saturn taking the pace, but you know, I don't see that these guys are going to be able to stay out front.
Well, good tactical riding from Saturn. They had a long breakaway by Brian Walton. Now they've got Fortner, but look at this now, another attack, and this is the US champion. The new pro champ, Steve Hegg, is going clear, and it looks like it's Big Ron getting on his wheel.
That's right, Ron Kiefel. Great Kiefel move. You know, Ron is so funny because he heats up very slowly in these races, and often it is only in the last few miles that he'll tell the team, hey guys, I feel really good and I'm ready to go. And you just don't know if that's going to happen. But it's happened here today, and these guys will work well together because they're very evenly matched.
Well, Kiefel won round number 5, the NJNB Classic, and you know, he's got a real chance of finishing in the top 3 in this competition. Now he's willing to work with this breakaway. Hegg's a worker anyway, and he's now pulling in more than his weight as this breakaway tries to go clear. In fact, it's hurting Ron Kiefel a little bit. Look at Kiefel's face here.
Well, no question, this has been a very long race, but there's only 3 miles to go, Phil, so this is going to be tight.
Well, the field are all regrouping behind. These are now the leaders of the championship today, and can they sort out the overall as well in favour of Ron Kiefel? Kiefel is prepared to drive this little breakaway on.
And these are the 2 strong domestic teams lacking Motorola in the front. So they've both got some support from their teams, Chevrolet LA Sheriffs and Coors Light, but there's a lot of attacking going on from behind.
Well, you're right, and in fact, there's a chase down going on here. The 2 leaders are about to be caught. Hegg's taking a look over his shoulder, so too is Kiefel, and that is Steve Bauer who's joining. I think it's Bart Bowen with him.
That's right. And Phil, you know what you see here is that at the end of the longest, toughest races, the best, strongest riders come to the front. And these are the men that are the strongest. Looks like Steve Hegg, though, is having a little bit of trouble coming off on this hill.
Well, you're absolutely right, Davis, and in fact, Hegg is losing ground there. The pressure's been applied, in fact, by Steve Bauer. Bauer has come up to this breakaway with a tremendous speed. Bowen's got his wheel. Bart Bowen's one of the most underestimated riders in the United States. He's been the US Pro Champion, and he's turned in some great rides in his career. He's got the wheel of Bauer. Bauer wants some help. Bowen goes through. Kiefel always willing to share the workload, but I'm surprised at Hegg being left.
Well, Steve Bauer actually is having a great ride because he has had no support and he's had to cover all these breaks. Looks like Steve Haig's actually been passed by another rider. We'll have to get the shot to see who it is, but Steve's having a little bit of trouble. He is very tired here. But you know, Phil, the course goes down and then it's a long gradual flat. And if these three guys mess around at all, Haig could catch up, and I think that might be Jamie Carney from Shackley who's ahead of him.
It certainly looks like it. It looks like the big boy who was in the first futile break a minute ago got swept away there, but he's come back up again now. He's gone past, in fact, Steve Haig, but he's still got to catch these three, and they're not waiting, of course, because the finish is now on the horizon, and Bart Bowen drives on here. Haig comes through, and just behind Haig is Steve Bauer. Three riders, three different teams. This could be the decisive move.
Ron Kiefel and Steve Bauer are going to be very evenly matched here. It just depends on who leads this race out, who leads the sprint out. So let's see what happens, whether they play any games or whether they just drive to the finish.
Well, the decisive move, has it been made? We'll take a quick break and then we'll know. The Norwest Cup, this ESPN Tour of America presentation, has been brought to you by Norwest to the nth degree, and by Subaru. Come in today and discover the beauty of all-wheel drive. And Steve Bauer and the breakaway now in the last 500 metres of the second running of the Norwest Cup, and Bauer, who's finished twice second, now looking for a victory at last in the Tour of America series.
A lot of jockeying going to be going on here, but they have to be concerned with the fact that Jamie Carney and Steve Haig are not too far back. And look at this. They're kind of sitting up, kind of looking back. No one wants to take the lead because, of course, taking the lead will give the benefit of the other two riders to just sit in that slipstream and bang, come by. And here's Jamie Carney. So we were right, Phil. He's coming up.
It was Jamie Carney. I know his brother Jonas a little bit better. I know Jamie, and Jonas is a great sprinter. And I tell you, this guy gets on, they could have big problems. This is a superb late dash. But that's how tenuous the lead has been throughout this Norwest Cup today. The leaders have never got away from the big field, and he's on. He's on, and he's about 300 metres from the finish.
And this is going to confuse them so much. Look, Ron Kiefel isn't sure what to go, and he's going. Ron is going too early, Phil. No question about it. He's too concerned with Jamie Carney, and he's going to give a perfect lead out to the other three.
Well, I'll tell you, you should know better than anybody, Davis, because, in fact, you're on the same team as Ron. He used to lead you out for victories such as this, and now he's doing it to a ride he doesn't want to take because he's given Steve Bauer the perfect run at the line, and Bauer's coming. Just get a look at the face of Steve Bauer there. Nobody's going to get near him today. Bauer gets the victory, and that will give him the victory as well in the Tour of America series. A tremendous finish there by Bauer. Ron Kiefel did make a mistake, but he was forced into it. There's the official result. Bauer finishes ahead of Kiefel. Jamie Carney and Bart Bowen gets fourth place, and Steve Haig, the champion of America, comes home in fifth. And so Steve Bauer of Team Motorola, out of the 7 events, they picked up 4, and they've climaxed the series with a victory too for Steve Bauer, and a great end of season victory for him after his disappointment in the Tour de France just a couple of weeks ago. Well, Ron Kiefel, he did it all wrong, and he knows it. He's been the champion of the US. He knows what it's like to win the big events. The overall Tour of America standings for 1994. Bauer wins in the last race of the series. Ron Kiefel gets up to second. Yates and Frankie Andreu drop down just a place. And apart from the Norwest Cup for Steve Bauer today, he also receives a ring from the Jostens Company. What a great day for him. In the Subaru Traction Challenge, Dave Mann ran out the winner of that today after that long breakaway. But for Steve Bauer, he kept his nerve.
In the end, I was feeling tired, but I was just being patient until the last lap, and then, it worked out, the right timing, the right guys, and Ron went to the front for the sprint, so that was good. So.
You bet it was good, Steve, because he gave you the victory you richly deserve, and you've won the championship this year. But the Minneapolis people turned out literally in their tens of thousands. They took the race to the heart, and the riders gave them a great show on a wonderful day out. Amongst the people who supported the race, there was Columbia Sportswear. We thank them as well. So until the next time we see you, from Davis Phinney, I'm Phil Liggett saying goodbye from Minneapolis.